I'm Tony Burnett with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. I just wanted to give a brief rundown on a program through our Farm Bill programs that we have available across Kentucky and across the nation in providing high tunnels to extend growing seasons and to address the food desert issues in the area. So primarily the Farm Bill program that will provide assistance, financial assistance for the construction of a high tunnel, as well as associated practices of roof runoff structures and storage tanks for irrigation water management and micro irrigation, is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, which is a voluntary program that provides both technical and financial assistance to land users to treat soil, water, air related resources on their land. And the primary resource concern we're addressing in the implementation of a high tunnel is plant production and season extension. So the program is available to all landowners and land users as long as they have registered farm information with the Farm Service Agency, and high tunnels are eligible on cropland across the state. And small scale operation is fine. There's no minimum or maximum area that you need to qualify for a farm number. The Farm Service Agency will make those calls. They are the keepers of the farm records for USDA. So if you have any questions at all, that's kind of the first step in getting eligible to apply for financial assistance to implement a high tunnel, is to check with your Farm Service Agency and get those farm records in order. So the benefits of a high tunnel, especially in our part of Kentucky, and for the most part, is the primary one is extend the growing season. It also improves plant quality and soil quality, reduces nutrient and pesticide transportation. But our main goal is to extend the growing season and address the food desert issues. Now, when I talk about addressing food deserts, we're particularly food production, but high tunnels are used for other ornamental plants, things like that aren't necessarily food production. So they're not limited to vegetable and fruit production. So keep that in mind. So currently in Kentucky, we provide financial assistance two ways, two rates. We have a historically underserved rate and a general rate, and I'll discuss that as we move along through the presentation. But we pay flat rate as a payment rate. So in FY23, the current payment rate in the general fund, non-historically underserved, is $5.92 a square foot. The historically underserved rate is $7.11 a square foot. Now, high tunnels range in multitude of sizes, large to small, or multiple tunnels on the same area. But our typical manufacturer size is about a 30 by 96, about 2,800 square feet. I'd say 75% of our contracts are this size. So that puts FY23's payment rate for the general payment at about $17,000, and for the historically underserved around the $20,000 payment rate. So we have, like I said, the typical is 2,880 square feet, but we have some that are 1,000 square feet, or we have folks that may do two separate high tunnels at 2,880 square feet each. So there's no minimums or maximums. We can work with those in the planning process as far as what is best suited for your footprint and for the production that you're interested in doing. So a few eligibility criteria. The high tunnel structures must be planned and to withstand local climatic conditions for a 5-year lifespan. So we typically will do this Gothic style instead of a Quonset style, just because of the wind and snow load. That these typically will withstand. Now, we typically will do the 4-foot spacings on the hoops, just to increase that strength and durability. To meet our program guidelines, it has to be considered a manufacturer's kit at least 6 feet in height. So most of the high tunnels, you get low tunnels, of course, but to qualify for the program, it has to be a 6 foot tall in height. Crops must be planted in the natural soil profile, so it's not a typical greenhouse raised bed, table type thing. It's primarily and must grow the crop in the natural soil profile. And again, you have to meet those eligibility requirements, including having that farm number with the Farm Service Agency. So as I said, the structural stability, this is one we had a few years ago that the snow load and some wind collapsed the high tunnel. So that's why we want to make sure that we're monitoring those for the lifespan of a minimum of 5 years. We have some that will take the plastic off at the end of the season, some that will maintain some heat there if there's forecasting heavy snow or something like that. So management is the key in the long-term production through a high tunnel. This is one of our high tunnels that's nearing completion of construction. As I said, we also can do the roof runoff structures, the gutters, downspouts, and the storage tanks. The high tunnel on the left was in 1 year of a contract. That's a 2,880 square foot high tunnel manufacturer's kit with the roof runoff structure and the storage tanks. And then this is a current year under construction, 2,880 square foot high tunnel with also the roof runoff structure and the storage tanks. Micro irrigation is also a supporting practice that we can provide financial assistance for. That includes the pump, lay flat tubes, and the T-tapes and things like that. So there's the high tunnel is the primary practice, and then we have additional available supporting practices in the initiative. So as I said, production is, this was a strawberry production inside a high tunnel. You can see the T-tapes and the zone markers there. And this is, of course, coal crops. So back to the historically underserved, NRCS will give a special consideration for historically underserved applicants. They get a higher payment rate. They can actually compete in a smaller funding pool of applications, and they are eligible for partial advanced payments if needed. So if you're deemed a historically underserved participant, you can apply for an advanced payment to cover the initial cost of materials. Generally, it's up to 50% of the cost of the high tunnel or the payment rate, as long as that practice is completed within 90 days. So a beginning farmer is someone who hasn't farmed consecutively for the past 10 years. And we ask for proof of this with a tax return where you didn't file a Schedule F. So if you filed a Schedule F in one of the last 10 years, that year that you filed the Schedule F is kind of your starting timer in your 10 years as qualifying as a beginning farmer. A limited resource producer is one that the family income does not exceed a certain level. These are based typically by county. So if you do not exceed a certain income level of that county, proven by 2 years worth of taxes, then you could qualify for the limited resource producer. We also have a socially disadvantaged group that we can qualify historically underserved in. And these are certain groups, including American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Asian, Blacks or African Americans, Native Hawaiians, and other Pacific Islanders and Hispanics. So make sure when you apply for any program with NRCS that you mark those all applicable opportunities that you may be able to compete in those fund pools. So in FY22, NRCS in Kentucky implemented about 100 high tunnels to extend the growing season in Kentucky. In 23, we're projected to exceed that, hopefully considerably. As I said, Kentucky is broken out into work units, and my work unit is this Foothills work unit. So the NRCS EQIP program has a variety of funding pools for a variety of agriculture and forest land activities. And among those are a variety of high tunnel initiatives. So in this 12 county area of the Foothills, we have a season extension production initiative that only participants and applicants in these 12 counties compete for high tunnel funding and supporting practices. So we're in about the second year of funding for that. Last year we funded 24 in that 12 counties. We should exceed that this fiscal year. I know there's a special initiative around Fayette County for high tunnels. There's a Louisville metro area high tunnel initiative. There's several partner initiatives with Grow Appalachia and some other folks down in southeastern Kentucky. There's a special initiative just for Letcher, Perry, and Knott County for high tunnel initiatives. So there's a variety of opportunities for funding. So the first step is getting in the office and seeing what your eligibility for any of those initiatives are. So a couple of notes. The program is strictly volunteer. It is funded competitively. We take applications for EQIP funding on an ongoing basis, and periodically we'll have what's considered a batching cutoff. So any applications taken up to that batching cutoff date would be considered, any eligible applications would be considered for funding up to that date. So this year, funding is, we're in the middle of approving applications that were received by the batching cutoff of November of 2022. And depending on the amount of money that could be left unobligated, there may be another ranking cutoff. We're not sure about that yet. But again, all of our programs are voluntary. Applications are taken on an ongoing basis. And we have I consider a highly successful high tunnel program in the state of Kentucky. Any questions at all? Feel free to drop those in the chat. Drop by your local farm service agency and NRCS service center in your local area, and anybody there would be glad to provide any assistance that you might need.
And then Daniel, if you are ready to hop on here and talk about FSA programs.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me good?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, everyone, I'm Daniel White. I'm actually a loan officer with the Farm Service Agency. I'm stationed here in the West Liberty Service Center. We service the majority of Eastern Kentucky, about 18 counties that we cover with the farm loan side of the office. With these high tunnels, we're going to be looking at the operating loan program, which would allow you to purchase farm equipment, livestock, or to make small improvements to your real estate, which the high tunnels would fall under. As far as equipment goes, tractors, bush hogs, rotor tillers, anything you might need. could fall under that category. Our current interest rates are at 4.75% for the operating loan program. When you turn those out to 7 years, for example, if it's a $15,000 loan, at 4.75% over 7 years, you're looking at a payment of just over $2,500 a year. Forward back to the example that Tony was saying earlier, around 17,000. If it's something in that ballpark, it's going to be around 2,900 to $3,000 a year. If we keep the loan amount under $50,000, that allows us to utilize the microloan program the FSA has come out with. It's a less paperwork. It allows for us to reduce our security requirements on those loans. We can keep them at 1-to-1. The experience is a little bit less too, as far as eligibility concerns are. And we don't have any early payoff fees or anything like that as well. The most important thing to note with our loan programs and what we're going to require is we'll have an assignment on the equip payments that you would get from NRCS. So we'll provide that upfront capital that allows you to get the structure placed out there. And once payment comes through with NRCS, it just goes straight to your loan. And it may even pay it off, just depending on how that works out. And the security will be pretty simple for the microloans. It'll be just a fixture filing in a UCC through the Secretary of State. If we go over that $50,000 threshold, then it's going to be additional security in the form of real estate or equipment potentially. So, and if we're loaning with the NRCS and what they're doing and their specific loan actions, that'll kind of reduce the amount of environmental reviews that we have to do and cut down timeframes quite a bit. However, if we go outside of the NRCS program and you're wanting to do a loan on a high tunnel just on your own, we'll have a pretty in-depth environmental review that'll be required with every loan action that we take. That'll all vary depending on our specific loan actions and how much you're going to do. So anyway, pretty simple. If there's any questions or concerns, just let us know, and I'll put my email in the chat just in case anyone wants to reach out by email.